Hi, Pork. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
So, before we get started, I have to explain to people why I just called you Pork. You guys, this is my friend Yvette, which is her name. But one of our girlfriends, many, many, many years ago, nicknamed her with Pork Chop. Although she was far from being a pork chop, they nicknamed her with that name and it stuck. And we've had that name for her forever. So I refer to her as Pork because she's one of my dearest friends. And, I just had to share that with everybody. Thank you for
And
being
now
here.
everybody pork chop too.
Now everybody's going to know you as Pork Chop. And, Yvette is just more professional. It's more for like the people that are not friends. But after they hear this interview, we're all friends here, right? Within this community, it's like a safe space. So you're Pork to them. So welcome, Pork. Thank you for being here and taking the time to meet with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored that you wanted to talk to me.
So let me explain to the audience what I'm doing. You guys know that I do my Connect with Caro expert series, and I bring in experts in all different types of areas focused on mindset, wellness, and relationships. And that's great because it's amazing to get content and information and learn from these people that have been dedicating their lives to this stuff. However, what I wanted to do today was connect with someone that's a real life person. This is not what you do for a living. Tell them what you do for a living.
I'm a CPA, so very far from health and wellness. As a matter of fact, I'm sitting at my desk all day long for lots of hours.
Exactly. So you are a CPA, you do accounting. This is not your profession. You're just a regular professional who had to make some serious changes in her life. And what I wanted to do today was have a real conversation of what it actually looked like. So I'm going to give a little background before I ask you the first question. The background is that, and this is full disclosure, right? COVID hit, and I know that COVID for you wasn't, it wasn't a walk in the park, right?
Like thinking about it makes my eyes water. It was so hard.
Tell them why it was hard.
Well, I was just in this moment in my career where I was selected to lead this project at the firm where it was very important for me to do well. I was presenting to leaders, I was talking to stakeholders all across practices, all across the country. And right when it started, my kids were home too. I'm talking, at that time it was a kindergartner and a first grader. They were home. So it was just very hard for me to do both and have, my kindergartner who, even though I had help here, I hired somebody and my mom was coming to help me. When she walked in, not knowing how to log in, not knowing how to, read something or understand what she was doing, and she wanted mommy and she knew I was just in the other room, it was really hard for me to just constantly say, no, let me walk you back. Let me, kind of, Ava's going to help you. Someone else is going to help you. But I had to do that all the time. And I had this like mom guilt. Like, here I am, I work from home, but they don't understand that I have to work. Like, I can't disconnect. So I was just dealing with the whole wanting to do really well, figuring out how to navigate the pandemic and working from home with the kids home and not letting them down either. So
yeah,
it was.
So I remember during that time, we tried to get together a few times, like a couple times on Zoom, and one time we got together 6 feet apart on the lawn of our friend's house. And whenever we'd see each other, either virtually or in person, the energy that I got from you was, I am drowning. I am literally drowning. And what was worse was that I saw you, just kind of like throwing everything to shit, if we're being honest, right? Like you were drinking a lot, tell them about that.
I was bartending, basically. I mean, I was looking up recipes, and I would have a drink with whoever came over, which was very little people. So my cleaning lady, it was happy hour every time she was here. My husband, who doesn't drink, I'm like, do you want a drink? I can try to make an old fashioned. I can try to make this. I can try to make that. I mean, I just was like, from my desk to my kids, putting them to bed, back to my desk, and then in between having a drink. So it was just a free for all. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in those times that we got together, I remember, like, and it's super annoying, right? When you have a friend who's like, well, Pork, have you tried this? And then you're like, I don't have time for that, Caro, or I don't have time, and sometimes we, as collectively as a group, we could feel your energy and we would all give you suggestions. And, sometimes when you're in that rut, like, you don't want anybody's suggestions. Some of the things that you kept telling me were, I don't have time. I don't have the energy. I don't have, like, you were in a state of complete lack in that moment.
Yeah. And I think, like, everything you guys said, I didn't take for granted. I listened. It just took a little while to hit me, like, that advice. Because yeah, at that moment, I was just very overwhelmed. It took me a while to kind of snap out of it. Even with all the support I had, friends, husband, my family, like, when my husband would come home from work, I hated him a little bit because his life didn't change. He was going to work. He was a police officer, so he had to go into work. He had to wear a mask, but that was it. Like, he would wake up in the morning, he would get dressed, he would go to the gym, and he would go to work. And I was just like, you're free. I hate you. So yeah, it took me a little while to just snap out of it and see the support and the fact that, like, I just needed to take a little more control over my feelings and the things that I could control.
So then here is the background story that originally I said I wanted to share. So we saw each other once, maybe, or twice. And then all of a sudden we didn't see each other because things got worse. You have your grandmother, your mom, we couldn't see each other. And that was it. And then you sent us a picture, or we saw each other. I can't remember, like, when that moment was that we saw you again. And it was as if they had replaced my friend with some sort of Barbie sculpture. I was like, what happened to you? Like, you literally transformed your body in this crazy way. I mean, my husband has transformed his body, so I've seen transformations before, but it never ceases to amaze me when someone does that. And you did that. And you remember that I was blown away, and I was sitting in front of I was in my car sitting in front of somewhere, and I was like, I need to call her and understand what has happened to her, because I thought you had either quit your job, or you had won the lottery, or you had, gotten a personal trainer, or something happened to you, because everything that you had told me before didn't sync up with what you look like today. And the conversation that we had that day is the conversation that led me to want to have this call for my community, so that they could understand how nothing has to change for everything to change. And you know that I teach core, and core principles are basically 4 skills that you need to be able to achieve success. And you kind of gave a preview of that, because you said you had to take control of your emotions, which is the E in core, emotional intelligence. And I wanted people to see how you have applied these principles in your life. So I'm going to ask you, as if it was that day on the phone, Pork, did you quit your job?
No, I did not.
I don't understand. Like, you are like a top executive at this big accounting firm. When did you become a bodybuilder? What on earth happened to you?
So I made a choice. I made a choice to snap out of it. There was also a little bit of a trigger in that I did take my kids to the pediatrician, and in their wellness checkup, they had significantly increased like their weight percentage, the percentile that they fell into. Like from one year to the next, it was a very unhealthy increase, which is what happened to me. And that to me was really like, I want to say, one of the biggest wake-up calls. There were more than one, but that was one of the biggest. It was not so much that they were kind of going through the same thing as me, because they obviously were, like, physically, but they were watching me. So I really, really, I didn't want them to see me just kind of sitting at my desk and complaining about life. I wanted them to see me take control of how I feel, turn a bad situation into a positive one, and still kind of do things for myself, for my health, prioritize those important things. So I made a choice. Let me back up. Another kind of factor was I took a photo of myself, and I wasn't happy with how I looked. My clothes didn't fit me. Like the stuff that usually fit me didn't fit me. I didn't feel good. Like I just felt like I wasn't moving my body, and I can. I can move it. I can jump. I can run. I can do great things. So it was like a combination of all of that triggered me to just make the choice to change things. So
wait, before you continue, that day that you went to the pediatrician and they give you these results and they tell you your children have increased their weight percentage significantly in an unhealthy manner, how did that make you feel in that moment? Like, did you feel like, oh my God, on top of all of it that I'm going through, like on top of that, there's this?
Yeah, more guilty. So more mom guilt. And then I kind of felt like, okay, I'm like failing at this, which is the most important job that I have. Like, this is more important than these people at the firm that I have to present to. I'm not, that's important, but this is more important. This is my kids. This is my health. This is their health. This is just our outlook on life and how to handle situations. And I'm not being a good role model. So yeah, I felt sad, and I felt like even more of a failure. And to me, that was it lit a fire under me. Like I was just like, okay, something's got to give, because I don't want them to see this.
I love that. And so in CORE, and you know this because you've attended my workshops, the C in CORE is clarity. And the idea is that sometimes life is like hazy, and what you were going through in that moment, everything was foggy, and like it's almost like you couldn't see clearly. And that experience, although painful and uncomfortable and maybe made you feel like a failure, that is what cleared your mind. Like it was that trigger, that wake-up call was like, well, why am I doing this? And who is the kind of person I want to be? So I always talk about that with my girls, which is we come with identities and we attach ourselves to certain identities. And in that moment, you decided that the identity that you wanted to attach yourself to was being a good role model for your kids. And all of a sudden, that took precedence over all this laundry list of excuses that you had before that made it just too difficult for you to make any sort of changes. Is that true?
Yeah, no, that is absolutely, you couldn't have said it better. That was a moment of clarity.
Yeah, so when that happened to you, and then all these other things, you took your picture, and I know that there was a series of other wake up calls for you, but that being like that defining moment, because there's always one, right? Like there's always that camel that broke the straw that broke the camel's back. Like there's always one. That was your defining moment, and you got crystal clear. Then the next step is that you need to organize your life according to that identity you want to step into, according to that priority and that goal. You've all of a sudden you've said, being a role model for my kids and taking control of my life is going to have to take precedence off over everything else. But here's the thing. Your work hours didn't change, your commitments didn't change, your responsibility didn't change, the pressure that you were under didn't change. So how did you organize your life in that moment?
So I pride myself on being an organized person. I have spreadsheets, I have lists, I have budgets, I am organized. I have my kids' schedules up. I know when everything is happening, when I owe money to the school, when I do this. I just was not prioritizing time for me. I was not working out. I had not taken the time to look at my calendar and time block for myself. So I started doing that. That was the first thing I did. I'm like, you know what? In the morning, I am going to block my calendar. Nobody is going to put anything on my calendar, and I'm going to exercise. And I started doing it. So, I allotted some time specifically for that. And now it's even earlier than I ever imagined. That's a whole other change I've made. But I allotted a time, and I stuck to it. And that was it.
Okay.
That was my time.
But I want to get to that because you just said something that I was going to ask you, which is, well, now it's a lot earlier. Back then, there was something you weren't willing to do, and you were not willing to wake up at 5 a.m. And I know that because you had told me that. I am not willing to wake up at 5 a.m. to exercise, but you work from 9 to whatever time you work. So how can you time block if you're working?
So I did. I time blocked from 9 to 10. And you know what? I said that I can make up this hour later. And I had flexibility in my job, so I was fortunate that I could do that. Now I'm at a different firm. I knew that was not going to be an option at this firm. I made a career change. Not really a career change, but I left one firm to go to another firm in January of this year. So in my mind, I'm like, I have not been here that long. I still don't have that flexibility where I know everybody. So in order for me to still have this time, I need to wake up at this ungodly hour and schedule my hour at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I continued that practice to kind of shift it to my new career change,
Well, so here's what I love about that. And that is the R in CORE, which is resilience. Resilience is being able to adapt to change, right? But what I love about what you're saying right now is that inadvertently, without you realizing it, and this is why I love your story so much, because this is real life. This is like a real example. What you did was that you only made the changes that you were willing to make at the time that you needed to make them. And at that time, the only change that you were willing to make was to block that hour from 9 to 10. And you made that change. But because
and some eating habits. I did change some eating habits.
Oh, you changed them dramatically. We're going to get to that. But on top of that, that hour that you created for yourself at a time that you were willing to do it, right? Because we knew that you weren't willing to do 5 a.m. But by doing what was within your control at that time, what you did was that you created a domino effect. And you had this clarity, you did what was within your control, and then you gave yourself the opportunity to become addicted to that lifestyle. And then once you became addicted to that lifestyle and you felt good about yourself and you felt like, I don't ever want to go back, all of a sudden, when your career changes and your circumstances change, you are now willing to do something that you were not willing to do just a year before, right? But
Yeah.
if you hadn't started somewhere, you would have never gotten to 5 a.m. And I think that's something so important because we have to take baby steps sometimes. Like you don't have to
Yeah.
start everything all at once, like maybe for you it's not 5 a.m. and maybe you need to work your way up to that. But the idea is just creating enough room in yourself that will then allow you to evolve and step it further if you need to. If you didn't have a career change, you wouldn't have needed to. But in your case, you did
Right.
need to, and because you're resilient and because you are addicted to this, you know, to this identity that you've created, now that 5 o'clock in the morning isn't um it's not beyond your abilities anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's absolutely right. And it's crazy because I feel like the transformation happened so fast, but it was baby steps. It was very small changes at a time. But like if I look back, I've done I've made such positive changes in what I think is a short period of time, but it did all happen very like little by little.
Yeah.
So yeah, baby steps for sure. You've got to start somewhere.
Now you did change your eating habits. You didn't just start working out at 9 o'clock and start that. You did change your eating habits. You want to talk a little bit about what you did?
So I'm not sure if it's the healthiest approach right off the bat, but I did want something that I was gonna feel that was gonna give me a faster result just for motivation. So I eliminated sugar, which is great. And then I completely eliminated carbs for a short period of time, just to kind of refresh and like kind of kickstart the eating habits. I mean, I added them back in, but to start, I eliminated them. So no sugar and no carbs. I was basically
And
eating
what about happy hour with your nanny?
nothing. Nothing. I went to my husband's, was it 42nd birthday. I was having water. People were asking me if I was pregnant. I was like, no, I am not pregnant, but I am not going to drink. I am on a mission. So I did not drink at all for again, that was another thing that I eliminated. Along with carbs came alcohol. And I just kind of, now I'll have the occasional drink, but I did not drink anything until I started noticing this change in my body, which came very quick. Like when you added eliminating those three things and then adding working out from not doing anything, it's crazy how soon I saw a change, which just kind of kept me going at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And because we were still in the pandemic, I want to know about your emotional state, because there was a reason that you were picking up that glass of wine or making that bartender drink with your nanny. And it wasn't because you have a problem with alcohol. Like that's not your problem,
No.
right? Like, but there was a reason that you were doing that. There was something that was triggering you wanting to relax or wanting to unwind or wanting to feel at peace. And I could imagine somebody listening to you and saying, gosh, that's amazing. What a beautiful transformation. But like, I don't think I have it in me to give up that much because I just don't feel well. And I know that you didn't feel well. So I want to know about that. Like, how did you feel and how did you uh, tolerate giving up those things, which was kind of like your safety blanket in a really difficult time?
Yeah, so I guess it kind of goes back to my moment of clarity. I just would look at my kids and I'm like, this is why you're doing this. Like just anchor back to that reason is really like what made me feel better. Like I knew I did have a headache because I wasn't eating sugar. I didn't it took me a little while to get used to these things that I had eliminated, but I'm like, this is temporary. Your kids are watching. Remember why you're doing what you're doing. So it was really just that kind of kept me going. Like all those kind of, like I like Simon Sinek, he always says like, what's the why? And I was just like, my why is my kids. So that was just it for me. I really just kept thinking back to that. I'm like, that's the goal. You want them to see a healthy you, a happy you. You want their weight percentage to go down. You have to go down too.
I love that. I love that. So you stuck to your why, and therein lies the R and the E, right? Resilience and emotional intelligence. Those are the things. You started managing your emotions, and you started reframing your perspective. And I want to say, because I talk to you every day on the chat, that when you made this change and when you made that decision and you started working out, you started getting really excited and you started approaching this new change with like a different energy, and everything about you changed. In fact, um, you seemed a lot happier than when you were drowning your sorrows with your nanny, or with your cleaning lady on Tuesday afternoon. Do you want to talk about how it started to make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I felt good, and then I am kind of a competitive person, so that kind of, I just wanted to compete with myself in a way. So when I started, like, lifting weights or running a mile, I'm like, I'm gonna record what I'm lifting because I think I can lift more, or I'm gonna, record my time because I think I can go faster. So that kind of just helped me. And then people were noticing. I felt like even my kids wanted to be around me more. They would walk into the garage and be like, can I do a workout with you? Can I run with you? Like, it was just contagious, I guess. And that
Energy.
Also, yeah. So
energy is contagious.
I picked up on, and talking about like contagious, I have like a group of 4 moms now that come to my garage and work out with me. And I mean, just that alone, they would see me and they're like, what are you doing? Can I work out with you? And if, people just say it and then they never really do it. No, they called me and they were like, when can I come over? And I have 4 moms now that just kind of from the kids' school that come and work out with me. And they like want the same progress. And that, it's almost like a network came out of it, which was, you share the same goals and you want the same things. And now, even if I didn't want to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I have somebody to open the door for. So I have to do it now.
Yes. And that is the power of community. And it's one of the reasons why I am on this mission to grow my core sisterhood, like my core community, because that is when you have that, a bit like somebody holding you accountable, when you have somebody to support you, when you have somebody that you can, in your case, you're lucky because you had the WhatsApp chat. Even, we had the WhatsApp chat even before I created Core. I created that WhatsApp chat. So you have it, for free, like in our little group of friends, and you have like someone to be held accountable and something. So you've always had that support. And even when you were not at your best, you still had that chat there waiting for you. And now, even though you have these 4 moms, you still report to the chat to let everybody know that you're still keeping up. So you've taken advantage of the support, and now you are, you didn't go out and find moms to do it. They found you because you were willing to do that work.
Yeah.
You were willing to do that.
Oh, it felt so good to start posting on that chat again after being absent for such a long time.
Yes. And this is what I tell my girls all the time. I'm like, I want them to look at our core community like a well. And the well is something that you come and you take from it when you need to, and then you deposit into it when you need to. Like right now, you're depositing, right? You are the one that's inspiring everybody. You're the one that's being the role model. But for a long time, it was just there to serve you, to hold space for you until you were ready to make those deposits.
Yeah.
Something that I wanted to ask you about, because I know it matters to people. Some people get lost in not knowing what to do. And I'm going to be honest with you. I have always been very intimidated by your workouts. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say it. I am intimidated by your crazy workouts. How did you start coming up with those workouts and putting them together?
So, interest. I mean, I really just started Googling and asking people that do work out. I started doing a little bit of research, and just little by little, I felt more comfortable adding new things and trying new things. I did at one point a long time ago do CrossFit, and I did play sports in high school. So it wasn't like completely foreign to me, which is, I think, helped me kind of jump into those kind of workouts a little sooner than maybe if you've never worked out in your life. But yeah, I asked people who were already doing it, and then that kind of just, they guided me.
I love it. I love it. All right. And you have an Instagram account where you post your workouts, right?
I do. I am by no means an influencer. It's not beautiful, but it does have great workouts. It's called Baenabox, Baenabox. And I just post my daily workouts. Just anything I do, I post. So hopefully it motivates someone. And if it does, then good. Then it served its purpose.
I love it. I love it. So if you guys want like an intense, crazy workout where you have to Google what these things are because you have no idea what they are, then you can go on Baenabox and you can look them up and be like, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to figure that out. Or you can just go and walk around your block.
Yeah, private message me. I'll see what it is. I'll even send you a demo video.
Right. Or you can do something, you can do a class, you can do anything. The point is to do something, right? So today, how long has it been since you've been in this journey?
Oh, I want to say about a year. We're in
so
February,
how do you feel today, a year in?
I feel great. I feel a lot stronger, physically, mentally, emotionally. My kids have a different me, I think. I'm also very glad that the pandemic is over. Not over, you know what I mean, but they're back in school, so I do have some normalcy. But I feel like myself again, I guess, is the best way to put it.
I love it. So you're core strong. And you remember when I first started teaching core, you were like the biggest supporter of core. You were like, I love this. And now you're living it.
I am. I can't believe it. Well, I can't, but
I'm really proud of you.
I remember with the concept.
You remember that day?
I remember. And it was, I'm like, this is it, Caro. This is it. This is what you need in life.
And who knew that those principles were gonna bring you back to life when you were drowning? That is it's just a beautiful thing. And in a way it's cool because it's not even like you were following a formula. You were just practicing these principles. You were practicing these principles because it is the formula for success. Even if you don't know you're following it, that is the formula for success.
It is. We have to tell everybody on this call that like this was not planned. I didn't know the questions you were gonna ask me, but as you started like laying it out and following the C and the O and the R and the E, I'm like my mind is blown because that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Well, everybody that listens to my calls knows that I don't prep my guests beforehand because I believe in organic calls, because I know we're aligned. And because I know we're aligned, we don't have to practice. We don't have to prep this. We don't have to pretend. It's all real. So everybody knows that that's how it's going to be, but I'm glad that you played so well. Like, thank you for being open to my questions. Thank you for being here, like for putting yourself out there. I'm so proud of you and I love you. So
thank you. I love.
I'll see you on I'll see you in our friends chat, and you might be getting a lot of followers on Instagram soon.
Good. Guys, bye. Thanks for having me.
Bye.